Good morning. Happy Friday. Happy long weekend coming. Wow, I forgot all about it. Should be nice. So the void is closed. And I like to say this is where the heavy lifting begins. So this rally off of the low, let's move up. Positive, no doubt, 100% retracement. It would not be a surprise to see it poke its head above this pivot high there. Um, It did make this little consolidation here, which was good rather than it just going directly straight above there, like from this bottoming tail bar, had it moved directly up there to take it out. And so far, this is 24-hour trading, but you can see it's doing the right thing at resistance, meaning going sideways. And the economic report came out, and there was a little jiggle around there, and it went dead. I imagine it was confirmation of what we know. But now that it's at this resistance, it's poked it's up here. There's still, well, this bar just started. So there's a wide range bar, which gives us a pretty easy line in the sand that should not be violated since we've had this consolidation. There was a retest of the breakout area. And on the news, it went up with a wide range bar. So going back down below that would be a problem for longs. And then this little base here likely would not hold because of that retracement. It's just not what it's supposed to do. We've got a pretty large reversal on the weekly time frame within multiple bars down. That's suggestive of it could go higher, but also suggestive of we're likely to see, even if it breaks out here, some kind of pullback and consolidation. Some jiggling around here to kind of area not quite like this, meaning that long of a rounding bottom. It's usually not what happens. The other thing that we could look for, if it could happen, is if this was to dip down and come back up again, that would be a positive. But ideally on Tuesday, since markets are closed on Monday, we could have a breakdown bar that comes back up and we could get what we call a correction bar. And that would prove they're buyers on dips still. I do want to point out, if you're not aware, 10 o'clock is going to be consumer sentiment and some other economic news that's going to be coming out that could jiggle the markets. So this really wasn't such a big deal, kind of a reaction to whatever the news was, what the reaction is at 10 o'clock. And if things hold up here, of course, that's going to be a positive sign that whatever the news is, good or bad, that the markets hold here at resistance and hold this level. So if it goes a bit higher, there's another void above right here up to the 50, but I think it's unlikely that it's going to shoot up there next week. Typically what happens and what we do is what typically happens historically. Typically what happens is you get some jiggling around at resistance after a move up. Now, we do have internally a bearish extreme here, not all of them, which is a good thing, but breadth is up at a bearish extreme. That's also a positive. One of the things I mentioned during the week was the ideal scenario is for it to go from here to here immediately, rather than what it's done here, meaning jiggling around at the zero line and then continuing higher. The fact that it's gotten this high is a positive, but it also suggests that things have moved a little bit too far. Breadth is neutral. So there's been an improvement in sentiment. It's not at an extreme. So what we look for historically is these two have to be in alignment to really get a substantial piece of information to suggest a turning point in the markets. So we'll see if this continues to move up. Sentiment, I imagine, has to move up toward these upper bands, and then we're going to have a setup. Was asked me 41.35 is JPM long put hedge for end of month. Could be resistance or rocket fuel. That 41.35. Well, I'm not looking at SPX, but we'll get to that. So up at the top of the range, we always look at SPY. Up at the top of the range, 408. So right there at the pivot high. So it's at resistance. This is where the heavy lifting begins. This is where the sellers got caught, longs got caught here, and they get their money back, or there's always somebody wants their money back at some point, unless it's new all-time highs. So some selling anticipated there, and we see that it's stalled. So I just look at this for reference point in SPX, since we don't get pre-market data. So it's up here, and it's at this resistance. It's gapping up. And so a pullback, well, it could pull back into 10 o'clock, the reversal period, but we got that news. If there was no news, it gaps up. We'd expect buyers on a pullback into the gap, filling the gap, and then see if it turns back up. I've got 41.50 noted here. It's 85 cents by a dollar. So assuming this holds up here, maybe even go 81.55, 90 by a dollar. That's perking up. So getting above this level. And so I'm just going to put this on a 180-minute chart to compress that so we can see what's to the left. And there's a little congestion there, some overlapping area, not that significant. However, so the ideal scenario is for it to go sideways around here a little bit from the bullish point of view and go higher. Going back down below 4,000, I think would be a sign, at least in the short term. So just like we were looking at the middle of a red bar coming down, a big wide range bar as being a reference point to which it was doing prior to yesterday, that would, hey, everything's still on the bearish side, downtrend, hasn't retraced that far. Now it's all the way to the top of just another way of viewing a retracement and how bullish or bearish it is. So assuming we get a green bar, right, on the weekly time frame, and these are multiple bars, but be doing the same thing, eyeballing this and looking at the middle of the bar, which give or take is at around 4,000. So pullbacks toward that whole number, that bar should hold up, give or take. If it plunges down there intraday, as long as it comes back up again, we get a bottoming tail bar. Everything at that point is lined up for, at a minimum, a trading range or a low point that could go a bit higher within this existing downtrend where sellers win. So this bottoming pattern, and I'll say again, bottoming patterns have a high tendency to be treacherous, especially in a bear market, which if you have two time frames in a downtrend together, index or stock, consider it a bear market. And as it gets up there, expect sellers are going to show up again. So in my opinion, I don't think this is done yet, but short term, a bottom. We'll see if it can get out of the trading range that we have here and whether it holds up here. So let me just take another peek here. It's kind of jiggling around here. Now it lost the 90-cent bid. It's 80 cents by a dollar at 41.50. And to be at 41.50 or above, I think just looking at the distance or the amount of distance that has to be traveled to get on, let's call it average true ranges. I'm just eyeballing it. These are larger bars. That was a big bar. Those would exceed this area. But I think, just based on where this has come from, right? These started after moves up. and big red bars. This has already been churning its way up. So to get a green bar of this size, after coming from this level, I think it's unlikely. So we look at all of these different concepts and what's going on and come up with the best educated guess that we can for where prices should not exceed. And I'm giving it at least the benefit of the doubt, uh, so far, other than the 10 o'clock number that's coming out, that this than what this is. So if it pushes higher into 10 o'clock, we would just shift this up as the premiums increase to get further away. Uh, so the downside is probably going away, but I had written down 39.65.70. Still premium there, which puts you down here below this low. So look, 4,000, it's up here now. To get down below that low would be very bearish if that was to happen. So we just have to deal with what is, right? Intraday and whatever's going on. If you're not comfortable, don't do it. And so, again, repeating, assuming this holds up, which it is, right? Look at the futures again, holding up very nice, can push up into here. Traders are going to be hesitant into getting more long at 10 o'clock. So, I mean, I'll assess what's going on here, at the open, but things are moving up. I'm just going to shift my bias higher, and where premium will be where it isn't right now to be away from those levels, right? So looking at the markets as we always do, this is well below the low. So again, tech underperforming. It's got room to get into the void up there. We'll see if that can keep going or not. Dow up at resistance, same story, jiggling around here. Again, I moved this to an 180-minute chart so we could see, but this has already moved up and it's got plenty of room to push up here. If it can go sideways here or dip down and come back up again, right, it gives us an upside target, give or take, around the 50 MA or a bit more next week. But the ideal scenario would be getting some type of correction bar at least here. Russell, shift that up. Choppy audio this morning. I don't know. No one else has said anything, Steve, as far as choppy audio. At the pivot high, a little bit above it. Yes, I don't know why. Maybe something with the internet connection happens from time to time. So same story here. Bitcoin. I'm skeptical. I've been skeptically bearish. Let's call it bearish on this market, rightly so. Multiple downtrends, some bottoming action here. This broke down yesterday. We were talking about this pre-market and it came back up, and then opening lower. So far, it's holding here. I would suggest keeping an eye on this. An alert down here at this bottoming tail bar could be something of a heads up with the market, besides just looking at, which way is the VIX going. Yesterday, the ticks were extremely positive almost all day. So, if you thought at some point, hey, the market moved too far, or it's a short, if the VIX moving down and you've got the NYSE ticks, gravitating between, 500 and 1,000, if you got the AD line, which all day yesterday it was up above 2,000, don't fight that. You're going to get run over. Even if things are going sideways, it's just another, looking at your gauges, your dashboard, to so whatever you're thinking, the market ain't showing you that things are going to pull back here in any significant way. Those are the tools that we use. Crude oil down a little bit here, not a big deal. Energy stocks performed well yesterday. Silver, looks like this consolidation here and poke up. That looks like it can go higher. Interesting. Gold, not so much so, but came off of the low. And transports, you know, stuff. That's what's moving. Um, Retailers, Gap, getting pounded this morning. So kind of I heard that and I was like, Gap is pounded down, Walmart pounded down, Target pounded down. And of course, it's just short covering, bargain hunting on those other ones that were rallying yesterday. So, you know, they're damaged goods. And Blue Horseshoe asking me if TLT is a buy. Well, it's in a downtrend. Resistance is up here. You do have interest rates having rolled over a bit, but you can see the 10-year is right at this pivot low. So TLT is the direction of bond prices. This is interest rates, which would be TBT. This is pulled back to an area of support and the rising 50 MA. It's not a good. So I'm thinking it's not such a good place to get long this either. So when you have a downtrend like this, the ideal scenario would be to get a W bottom, a retest, and a reversal. And that would be a place to consider getting long, unless you want to do it here with a big old stop. If you just think, well, I'll just do a mission because I think this is bottomed out with a big old stop and then look to add at the appropriate time. It's possible thing that it, things do come in and out of favor as far as they're being correlated. That certainly does happen. But it's not something that we know until after the fact. So, it's a good thought, but, I guess we'll, and so if the markets continue up, maybe Bitcoin will just come up to the top of the range and it's also down in short-term extended, as you can see. It just hasn't been able to live. We don't have an all-out, the coast is clear situation here for the broader markets, but there has been improvement from what was. And so we'll just see, how things go here. Having moved up to the top of the range, I would not be entering longs for swings at this point. That's for sure. If it looks like this. So to you, Dan.
All right, good morning. But, we did a great job this week navigating the shorts, closing them and entering longs. We're 100% bullish right here in terms of all of our opens, not in terms of new trades, as Greg just said, but all our opens are great. I went and adjusted some things this morning. And I posted a few new ones. We'll just go through them here. Zulu Sierra, bottom right. Nice, beautiful double, triple, whatever retest. I like the volume. Closing breakout yesterday, gapping up on earnings. I was hoping it wouldn't keep running. So this thing, it's run another $5 or so pre-market, but that looks great. This workday also middle window. No. This is just one that's getting creamed. There's no pattern, but it's down a lot. Weekly's down a lot, and I just want to see what it's going to do. Maybe a 0 DTE. T-Doc I posted. Looks good. Put spread in the video. We did a great bear gap that bullies 1 DTE put spread yesterday. And on this pattern, I went and looked to do another one for next week, but the juice isn't there. We got really good juice in the heat of the battle yesterday. IIPR I'm actually in this already. I entered early in the week, shorted like the $90 puts, something crazy far away. But it's still on my list here to give as a new trade to you all, and then for me to add. Sega, this thing looks like it's been a toy, what I used to call the Reddit boy toys, which they aren't as active, I guess, as they used to be. But yesterday, bullish engulfing, it's up. That could set up to be a day trade. Mr. Big, not so big today. Retailer, gapping down at these prior lows. That's ugly. Here's the biotech disaster du jour of the morning, getting chopped in half there. That's what you get. Trading bios, high risk. Dell gapping up. Wow, that's a big gap. Nothing to do with that. Domo, I can't see where you're gapping. That had earnings. Autodesk, 199, gapping top of range. Nothing to do there. I see one print here. We'll come back to you. Wow. I got some loud neighbors here in the Keys. Well, sorry about that. Those are not my friends, just my hotel neighbors. Red Robin was a Climo, had earnings 1045. Gap's too big for me. EPD. Thomas, not sure what you're thinking about. It's in an uptrend, daily, weekly, monthly. It's coming in. It's kind of a big head and shoulders on the 15-minute chart. Relative weakness today with anything gapping down. That's not going up with the market. So we shorted naked puts on this yesterday. We also gave IWM directional and puts and naked and put spread. This one had the best void to me, so a little bit weaker though today. It's having a harder time getting above yesterday's high than the others. Gaps, another retailer disaster gap, similar to Mr. Big. Wow, these things, look at this. This was over 35 bucks on the monthly. Yeah, but there's no pattern there, Stevens. Maybe a put spread under the lows, but there's a lot better patterns like Zulu Sierra. Now this one's interesting. You got a 180 reversal here into the gap fill and going sideways. I like that. Thomas. Both for a put spread and maybe 30-minute high. Oh, Costco, for those of you who did the earnings trade with us or with me, I shorted the, what was it, the 340 puts into earnings. And even though it's down, our puts, if you want to close them at a penny, it's up to you. I'm just going to let mine expire worthless. Does anybody really think this is going to 340 by 4 p.m.? Let's see, Baba, we shorted a put spread yesterday. Looks good. I also noticed Bidu. They're both coming in a tad, but Bidu's worth watching. Another Chinese one that had earnings today. Look at PVD, gap into resistance, but let's see what it does on the pullback. I like the weekly bottoming. 20 MA starting to curl. Yeah, this is making a nice slow bottoming. Oh no, I have no ideas today, McGraw. We're already in one. On a Tuesday, we shorted a out of the money put spread. Well, here, I'll give you the adjustment here. Um, cost, where so that's the trade we did. I'm just gonna let it go worthless. PM VP 1531 gap breakout. I don't know. It trades sloppy to me. AEO, another gap de jour disaster like ANF. Workday, that's the one I have in the middle window. Sumo potential double bottom. Marble. Gap's too big, but if you McGraw any puts 52, it's a nice reversal. I'm not going to even look now because I'm sure they're going to be ridiculous. All right, crowd here. Crowd I liked even as a day trade. This was going to be a no-brainer put spread, but it has earnings on June 2nd is the problem. But that's a breakout of a bottoming pattern with a climb on the weekly. So that, you know, we said we're very selective on new longs, particularly swings, but I just don't like chasing in the first 5 minutes. But that's a beautiful day trade setup right there. Spiders here upper right.